Guys, welcome back to the Rosie Rides channel. In this video, we're going to be going over my first ever float experience. It's a little bit different than the usual biking content that we have on this channel, but I wanted to share this with you in the case you'd be interested or want to give this experience a try. This was my first time, so in this video, I'll be going over what inspired my first float, how my first float went, some tips of advice if you're looking to do your own, and some of the surprises I had when doing it. So let's get right into that. What is floating or sensory deprivation? As the title states, sensory deprivation, the float tanks that are used remove all senses of sense, all sensations of sense. For example, touch is removed through the use of Epsom salts in the tanks, makes you float weightless, removing the sense of gravity from yourself. Sense of sight, you're typically in a pitch black tank. However, you could opt in for the Rolls-Royce option with the lights on the roof if that's more of your flavor. And then sense of hearing, typically the float tanks are going to be soundproof, so it's going to remove sound unless it's coming from the inside. Unless you're the one making noises, you won't hear anything. And then taste and smell, tank doesn't remove that in and itself, but typically you won't be tasting or smelling anything unless you fart or happen to get salt water in your mouth in the tank, or I don't know what other smells you'd get besides that. So complete removal of the five senses that you use in your day-to-day life. Why would this interest anybody? Why would anyone be interested in removing their senses, as they seem to be so helpful in our day-to-day lives? So I'll speak for myself. I've been waiting to float for a super long time, nearly a whole entire year. I heard about it for the first time at the end of August last year, and I just didn't have time as the summer was wrapping up between work and some extracurricular stuff I had going on. So I didn't have the opportunity to go before I moved out to school. Moving out to school, there's not a single float tank near where I go to university, unfortunately, so I had to put it off until I came back home for the summer and finally took the opportunity to do this. And the reason that I wanted to have a float experience is due to the circumstances the past 2 years has provided myself and everyone around me. So whether it's for work or school, screen time has gone up enormously between doing school work, using your phone or tablet or computer, whatever it may be, for personal use. Screen time has gone through the roof, and they're essentially sensory boxes. Vision, noise, everything. You're constantly stimulated by these devices.
Take the remote unit from its handy storage space, and you're set for hours of pure pleasure. Enjoy your favorite programs, black and white or color.
And more plugged in than ever, eating up more time of your day. And the only time you ever really get to unplug is when you're sleeping. And even then, you don't get to consciously experience the absence of sensory input when you're sleeping because you're sleeping. So I was really looking forward to this opportunity to experience what it would be like to have lack of sensory input and kind of just relax and detox from the past 2 years of just constantly using devices, whether, like I said, for school or personal use, and just have that downtime to kind of reset and disconnect. So there's 2 pods in this place. I don't know if they're both called pods. One's a tank, one's a pod, I don't know, but there's the hatchback style that opens up and then you walk right in, and then there's also the wall style. So I got the wall style one for this one in a long corridor. Danny tells me, get in there, put the earplugs in, shower, and then there's a button and it will start your session on the side. So I shower, get undressed, shower, and then head into the tank. If you want to see the uncensored shower content, link will be in the description. For the OnlyFans, $9.99 a month, and 3 months you get a discount for $5 a month. So think about it, consider it. But anyhow, I do that, I hop in the tank, and then the experience starts. So I hop in the tank to start the session. Owner Danny tells me there's 3 buttons. One's for the stars on the roof, Rolls-Royce style, if you want to turn them on or off. One's for music, if you want to play it. And then one's to talk to a lady. Not to talk to a lady, but if you press the button, it starts the session, the lady will let you know. So I'm pressing the light button, I'm pressing the music button to turn it off, I'm pressing the talk to the lady button. None of them are working. after I finished my shower and hopped in the tank, so I was a little bit confused. The jet's still going in the tank as well, so it's pushing me around. I'm moving side to side in the tank like a Lego Star Wars character in the old video games, the custom character mode, just floating there senselessly. And I'm like, okay, the session definitely hasn't started. Maybe it's on a timer. So a couple minutes pass, and I guess it was in fact on a timer, because all of a sudden, boom, goes to black, jets turn off, music turns off, lights turn off, and the session began. And once the session started, I'll tell you, it was boring, and it was great. I never had such a good time being bored. We're never really bored nowadays. We're always a click away from being entertained and having our minds stimulated in one way or another. So having this opportunity to kind of just relax and be bored for once was such a great feeling, and it's definitely stuck with me the past couple days and even weeks afterwards. It's been about 2 weeks since I've actually been to the float tank. No, not 2 weeks, like 1 week. Nonetheless, it's stuck with me. I've been taking more time out of my day to just kick back, relax, and literally do nothing. I'll spend about 15-20 minutes a day just sitting, just sitting, and it's really made my days better. And there's not much to the tank. It just gives you an opportunity to kind of kick back, relax, take a look at your life, and figure some things out. And one thing I would like to note about my sensory deprivation tank experience that I was not expecting going into this, and was really happy for the experience it provided me, was for my knee. So I went into the tank and was lying there, and about 15 minutes in, I noticed this really bad pain in my knee.
Roach came down bad on his left foot. See him holding onto his knee and down.
That was once there. As a result, I took a big spill on the trail, and the root that I fell on was just a bit harder than my knee. So the root didn't break, but my knee was definitely in a lot of pain. But going into the tank, I noticed about 15 minutes in, my knee pain was completely alleviated and gone. And this pain was pretty significant, probably like a 6.5 on the pain scale, 10 being like stabbed in the face, 1 being like a finger, like your staple in your finger. So like a 6, maybe a 5, actually, if stabbed in the face is a 10, but like a 5, and completely gone. So I'm like, wow, I wonder if this is gonna be the same way when I get out of the tank. So I get out of the tank, feeling good, another hour passes, and the pain comes back, but it is cut down significantly. And I think the reason for this is the lack of gravity on your knee. So when you're in the float tank, you're floating completely. There's no pressure on your knee whatsoever. And elevation is a typical procedure. RICE, if you've done first aid, rest, ice, compression, elevation, helps with alleviating knee pain, and the elevation is the removal of gravity. So the float tank did the same, and I was amazed with how my knee felt almost nearly back to normal, but still feeling pain. And then a couple days later, it was completely gone. So I genuinely think I would have had that knee pain for another week at least had I not had this float tank experience. And like I said, this wasn't something I was expecting. I didn't go there to fix my knee pain or anything like that. It was just a fortunate result of it. So if you're dealing with any pains like that, I think floating would be a serious, any bodily pains would be a serious opportunity to kind of help with those pains. So I got 2 pieces of advice if you want to do your first float. The first piece of advice is do not touch your face. Once you're in the tank, your face is off limits. Don't even think about touching your face. There's gonna be those instinctual itches. You just gotta fight it, because I gave in to those itches, touched my face. I got salt all over my eyes, all over my mouth, tasted disgusting. My eyes were burning. There was this spray bottle that I later found out that had clean water in the case that if I ever did that, I could clean it right out. But the reality of it was I didn't know that that bottle was for that. So I was just left with some burning eyes throughout the session. Eventually it went away, but definitely stuck around for a bit. And then the second piece of advice, like I mentioned earlier, there is thousands of pounds in this tank that gives you that opportunity to float above the water and have that feeling of zero gravity. So I would recommend using a swim cap. Goggles are definitely not necessary though. Goggles you don't need. And the reason I recommend using a swim cap is once I got out of the float tank to shower, my hair was so dried out. It was like I was combing my fingers through a bale of hay. So having that swim cap on will allow for the salt to not get up in your hair and dry it out. So definitely would recommend that because yeah, it got back to normal after a couple of shampoos and conditions in the following days, but it took like 3 or 4 days to get back to this soft goodness. So if you want to avoid that, get a swim cap on you and it will definitely make your experience a lot more enjoyable. So I told the owner I'd leave a review on his website because I had such a great experience there. It's been about a week, didn't leave that review. He's probably like, wow, this guy's a but I'm here doing it now. 5-star experience. Thanks for watching till the end, guys, on my first float experience. If you liked the video, leave a like down below, leave a comment about what you thought. Subscribe for more content like this. I know this video was a little bit different off the bike, but wanted to share this experience with you guys as this might be something you'd be interested in. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and thanks for watching.